Folks, my guest tonight is a beloved American treasure, an actor you know from Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, The Post, and Elvis. His new film is called Here. Please welcome back to The Late Show, the one, the only, Mr. Tom Hanks. There you that.
And
no
there we
difference
go. There
whatsoever.
You go. You know, it's like the band is back together again, except we're not performing Please Please Me. We're performing the White Album. It's a slightly.
In 2024, Tom Hanks attended one late-night premiere, as he had so many times before. But this time, something was different. He smiled, lifted a hand to greet the cheering crowd, and leaned toward the microphone. For a moment, everything felt familiar. But then, almost too quickly to notice, his hand trembled. It was a small, fragile shake, and most who stood there would have missed it entirely. The internet, however, never misses. Within minutes, the brief flicker of vulnerability was clipped, replayed, and shared. Questions began to spread. Is Tom okay? Well, turns out he's not, and this is not the only problem he's facing. At 69, Tom Hanks, the man who has always seemed unshakable, is facing the toughest period of his life.
Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. And the Oscar goes to Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump.
Let's take a step back for anyone who may not know the full story or who hasn't kept up with the last 40 years of pop culture. Tom Hanks isn't just another actor. He's the man who made people cry over a volleyball named Wilson in Cast Away. He's the face of Forrest Gump, a movie that taught millions to see running not just as exercise, but as a way to find meaning and direction in life. And of course, he gave us the unforgettable line about life being like a box of chocolates. His career is packed with achievements like winning 2 Oscars in a row for Philadelphia and Forrest Gump, which is something very few actors have ever done. His movies have made more than $4 billion worldwide, and on top of all that, he has a natural warmth and kindness that makes people trust him. But behind the success and the charm, there is a quieter and more serious part of his life that doesn't always make the headlines. In the year 2013, when he was 57 years old, Tom Hanks revealed that he had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. The way he shared the news was classic Hanks, lighthearted, funny, and humble. Instead of issuing a sad statement, he told the world on The Late Show with David Letterman. He explained that after years of doctors warning him about his rising blood sugar, one finally told him, "You've graduated. You've got type 2 diabetes, young man." The audience laughed, and Hanks himself laughed along, turning a serious health problem into a relatable story.
Actor Tom Hanks surprised a lot of folks when he shared this news with David Letterman last night.
I went to the doctor and he said, "You know those high blood sugar numbers you've been dealing with since you..."
But the truth is that type 2 diabetes isn't just another line on a resume. It's a lifelong condition that requires constant attention. It means checking blood sugar levels, being careful with food choices, and finding ways to balance work, stress, and health. Unlike a movie role, it's not something he can step away from once the cameras stop rolling. It's a permanent part of his daily life. Hanks has even admitted that part of the reason he developed the condition was linked to years of weight changes for his movie roles. For example, he lost a dramatic amount of weight for Cast Away and gained weight for other films, which put stress on his body over time. In interviews, he has said he wishes he had taken better care of himself earlier.
You know, playing Elvis in a movie that's called Elvis, it's like playing Buddha in a movie called Buddha. You know, you're gonna have to. You got some big blue suede shoes to fill there.
Fast forward to June of 2022, at the premiere of Elvis. Tom Hanks is standing on stage, dressed and padded up to play Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis Presley's controlling manager. He's speaking to the crowd, but the cameras, as always, are looking for more than just his words. They zoom in, closer and closer, and that's when people notice something small but impossible to ignore. This time, his left fingers are drumming a frantic, unconscious rhythm against his thigh, a nervous energy seemingly uncontained. That short moment becomes a clip, and the clip explodes across the internet, shared and replayed millions of times. Just 2 months later, he appeared on Saturday Night Live as a guest. Again, he walks out smiling, holding a glass, and for a split second, it slips, just a hair's breadth, before he steadies his grip. On its own, it's nothing, something that could happen to anyone. But for those already watching him with suspicion, it becomes another sign. And that's when the floodgates open. Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube are filled with theories, and people with no medical training start analyzing his every move as if they're experts. It has to be Parkinson's, one person posts confidently. Another insists, this is early onset dementia. Look at his stare. Look at the shaking. The algorithms reward drama, and the most alarming takes get pushed to the top. Soon, every public appearance of Hanks is studied frame by frame. If he looks tired, it must mean he's sick. If he pauses too long before answering a question, it's no longer seen as thoughtfulness. It's treated as a symptom. What made all this worse was the speed of it. In a matter of days, one clip or one small gesture could turn into global speculation. The internet didn't leave room for waiting or nuance. It wanted answers, and it wanted them immediately. And when no official explanation was given, people filled the silence with the most frightening possibilities they could imagine. Here's what's really going on, without all the noise and wild theories. The truth is simpler, quieter, and in some ways, more unsettling. It's the same type 2 diabetes he joked about having 2 years prior. But diabetes isn't something you just brush off. When it's not perfectly managed over the years, it slowly wears down the body. One of the big ways it shows up is through nerve damage, especially in the hands and feet. Doctors call it peripheral neuropathy. It doesn't hit all at once. Instead, it sneaks up on you, little by little. Sometimes it shows up as tremors, those small, uncontrollable shakes. Other times, it's numbness, the eerie feeling of being disconnected from your own body. Even small cuts can take forever to heal, which makes everyday life a bit riskier than most people realize. Now layer on the natural effects of aging. Once you hit your 60s, muscle loss starts to accelerate. Your body, which once did everything you asked of it without question, begins to push back. The trust you used to have in it starts to fade. So those tremors you see, they don't have to mean some shocking new diagnosis. They're more likely the result of a long-term condition colliding with the natural process of getting older.
You announced on David Letterman very bravely you have diabetes type 2.
Type 2 diabetes, yeah.
You've known that from the age of 36. You had type
Well,
1.
I was fighting high blood sugars, which I bet a bunch of people
Now,
do.
in that interim 21 years, you've had parts you've put on weight for, you've taken off weight. First of all,
Ask Tom Hanks where his health troubles started, and he won't spin some dramatic story. He'll just shrug, and with that familiar honesty of his admit, I earned it. It's not false modesty, it's him owning up to years of choices that finally caught up with him. For decades, his body wasn't a temple, it was a tool of the trade, something he pushed, reshaped, and even punished, all in service of the roles that defined his career. Think about the extremes he went to. For Philadelphia, he dropped 50 pounds to play a man fading away from AIDS, a performance that won him his first Oscar. A few years later, for Cast Away, he had to swing the other way, packing on 30 pounds, then shedding it all and more to play a marooned survivor. Those transformations looked incredible on screen, but behind the scenes, they were brutal. He's talked about it openly, with that mix of regret and humor, only he can pull off. "I was a total idiot," he said once, looking back on those years of crash diets and wild swings. "I thought I could abuse my body, and the bill would never come due." And honestly, who hasn't felt that way? When we're younger, it's easy to believe consequences are for other people. But eventually, his body presented the check, and the price was type 2 diabetes. Once diagnosed, Hanks got serious. He cut out sugar and junk carbs, swapped late-night pizza for salmon and broccoli, and started walking every day without fail. He dropped 25 pounds and brought his numbers back under control. Doctors now say his A1C levels, basically the scoreboard for blood sugar, are in a safe, manageable range. But manageable doesn't mean cured. It just means the fight is ongoing, a truce, not a total victory.
Okay, everybody ready? Here we go. Clear. Ready. You gotta be still on the doctor.
Now, Tom? Yeah, you gotta be real out of breath.
So, what does manageable really mean? On screen, all you see is the polished performance, the charm, the delivery, the character brought to life. What you don't see is the backstage grind, the invisible routines that make that performance possible. A film day might officially start at 6 in the morning, but Hanks's day starts earlier. Before the makeup chair, before wardrobe, before slipping into character, there's the ritual he can't skip: the finger prick. A tiny drop of blood on a strip tells him how the rest of the day has to be handled. It's math before sunrise, balancing carbs, stress, physical effort, and time like variables in an endless equation. On set, the medic keeps a mini fridge tucked away with juice boxes, each one quietly labeled "for Tom." They're not snacks, they're lifelines, ready in case his blood sugar suddenly crashes. Between takes, while other actors might scroll Instagram or nap, Hanks keeps moving. He walks, paces, stays in motion, because good circulation is everything when diabetes threatens to cut off the nerves in your feet. Then there's lunch. The craft services table is a minefield. Donuts, pastries, all off limits. The grilled chicken salad is safe enough, but only if the dressing stays on the side, because even something as simple as a drizzle of sauce can throw his numbers off. Every bite, every choice is a negotiation. And when the day isn't done, when it's a red-eye flight to the next city for press, he faces the hotel buffet, another battlefield. He's exhausted, but discipline doesn't sleep. Most nights, it's something simple and calculated. A handful of almonds, maybe a single glass of red wine. He'll quietly toast the cheeseburger he misses like an old friend, but doesn't dare invite back into his life. That's what manageable really is. Not glamorous, not easy. It's a daily grind, 1,000 small decisions stacked one after another. It's work, unseen, uncelebrated, but absolutely necessary.
I've spent a lot of time with you, more than you've wanted. You are a very nice fellow, but I suspect... Oops. What are you doing?
The headlines love a clean ending. They see a tremor, they hear the word diabetes, and they rush to declare Tom Hanks retired. But the truth is much less dramatic and, honestly, a lot more interesting. He's not fading out. He's still working, just working differently. A Man Called Otto, that small, heartfelt story about a grumpy widower, quietly crossed the $100 million mark worldwide, right after he jumped into Wes Anderson's quirky pastel-colored world with Asteroid City. And even now, there are 2 projects in post-production, and another being discussed. The work hasn't stopped. The rhythm has just changed. What he doesn't do anymore is back-to-back marathons of 5-month shoots, the kind of punishing schedules he once handled without blinking. These days, he breaks filmmaking down into what he calls the 5 irreversible steps, from script to screen, and he weighs each one carefully. Pre-production, shooting, the press tour, Every stage gets measured against the daily toll his body now demands. He jokes about it, as he always does, but there's real wisdom buried in the humor. "I'm in better shape than I was at 35, he said. But shape isn't stamina. Stamina's the currency, and the bank balance changes daily. That line says it all. The thing he now guards most carefully isn't his money, it's his energy. Every role, every day on set, is paid for from that limited account. He's become his own accountant, tracking and budgeting his vitality with the same focus others give to their bank statements. The internet doesn't do nuance. It wants a clean label, a simple story. To some, Tom Hanks has to be the heroic figure who beats his illness. To others, he's cast as the tragic cautionary tale, someone to be pitied. But Hanks, who has spent his career bringing complicated, layered characters to life, has no interest in playing either of those roles. On The Howard Stern Show, he admitted that the hardest age wasn't 69, staring down the realities of aging. It was 35 when he felt untouchable. Back then, he thought he was bulletproof, and that sense of invincibility made him careless. Looking back now, he sees the cost of those choices. These days, each birthday feels less like a countdown and more like a challenge, a reminder to keep showing up, to keep creating, to keep living with intention. But being Tom Hanks also means living under a microscope. On The Graham Norton Show, his eye twitched, a minor thing, just dry eyes under hot lights after a long day. Most people would shrug it off. The tabloids, though, ran with it. "Stroke," screamed the headlines. The frenzy lasted only a few days before the truth came out, but the damage stuck. The whispers linger, proof of how quickly people are to see disaster in something ordinary. This is the reality for him now. Every gesture, every blink, every slip is open to interpretation and misinterpretation by a world that too often chooses gossip over empathy. It's a strange tightrope he has to walk, managing a personal health condition while also carrying the weight of being a beloved public figure, where even the smallest sign of fatigue can become tomorrow's headline. In early 2023, there was a moment Tom Hanks later admitted nearly broke him. He was sitting alone in a rental car outside a soundstage, his windows fogged, his body still reeling from a sudden blood sugar crash that had blindsided him in the middle of a scene. The weakness, the confusion, the sense of vulnerability, it all hit harder than he expected. For 15 minutes, he just sat there and thought, I could make one call right now. I could tell my agent I'm done. I could fly home and never walk onto a set again. It was tempting, that thought of letting go. But then his phone buzzed. A text from his wife, Rita Wilson. "Whatever you decide, I'm proud of you." Just a few words, but enough to steady him. He breathed, pulled himself together, and went back inside to finish the day. Rita, who's been by his side since 1988, has become so much more than his partner. She's his quiet health manager, the person who carries glucose tabs in her purse, lines up telehealth calls between takes, and checks restaurant menus before he even sees them. Their kids, now grown, are part of the team too. Together, they keep a family group chat called the Glucose Gang. It's where they swap health updates, share practical tips, and crack dark jokes that only a family could get away with. Hanks likes to say it's the only group chat where he's never the one sending the longest messages. A small, funny detail, but one that shows just how much of a team effort it takes to keep him steady, safe, and still doing what he loves. Yes, Tom Hanks is 69. Yes, he has health issues. But he's still Tom Hanks. He still cracks himself up on late-night talk shows. He still gets misty-eyed when he stumbles onto a rerun of Forrest Gump. He still signs every autograph for the fans who wait, even when it takes a while. He hasn't stopped being himself. He just does all of it while quietly tracking blood sugar numbers and counting down the minutes until his next test. The feeling his story stirs up isn't sadness. It's something more grounded, clarity. It's like watching a parent age and realizing, with a lump in your throat, that the roles of protector and protected are slowly shifting. He doesn't need pity. What he needs, and what all of us will eventually need, is the space to adapt, the chance to keep moving forward, and the grace of being allowed to do it on his own terms. And forward he goes. Next up is an Apple TV Plus limited series filming in Budapest. He's already preparing, walking laps around his driveway to bank his steps before the long flight. The production has adjusted to meet him where he is. They've lined up a private nutritionist and made sure there's always a recumbent bike nearby. Hanks told the showrunner, half joking, half serious, "I'll be there, on time and ready. But there might be moments when I need 10 minutes to prick my finger and curse the sky." They laughed because that's the deal now. That's the reality. He turns 70 next July. There will undoubtedly be television specials, montages, and career retrospectives. But the real, quieter celebration will happen behind the scenes. Another day where his blood sugar stays steady above 100. Another long walk without numb toes. Another scene wrapped before the sun sets. So what do? We watch his films again, yes, but now with a new layer of understanding. We see the same man commanding the screen, but somewhere off camera, he's quietly checking his watch, wondering if it's time for a snack. And maybe, when our own health challenges come along, and they inevitably will, we'll remember him. The man who turned self-mockery into motivation, who faced his own vulnerability not with despair, but with discipline, and who, despite it all, just kept telling stories. So, what do you think about Tom Hanks? Let us know down in the comments section. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss a deep dive into the stories behind Hollywood's most fascinating figures.